Hi, it's Sophie, your science buddy, and today we're talking about the cell cycle and mitosis. In other words, we're talking about cell division and how one cell turns into trillions of cells. So today I want to discuss the cell cycle in general without going into specifics so that you can create a general understanding of it. But of course, if you want to further your understanding, you can of course go to the link below and watch our future videos. Have you ever wondered how living organisms grow? It's not because each cell is growing and getting bigger, but because its cells are dividing. This is the main importance of the cell cycle, and these are the three reasons, which is GRR, GR, which means growth, replenish, and reproduction. From a single cell, a cell divides and develops into trillions of other cells. But when these growing cells die, they have to be replenished. A good example of replenishing is in blood cells when they split. Because they only last for about 120 days, they have to split up. Last but not least, the cell cycle is important for the asexual and sexual reproduction of cells, but we won't be discussing that today because that falls under the topic of meiosis, and we're talking about mitosis. Moving on, what does the cell cycle look like? Well, there are two major phases of the cell cycle, which are interphase and the mitotic phase. During interphase, the cell prepares for cell division and it duplicates all cell contents, including DNA. In the interphase, there are 4 stages: G0, G1, the S phase, and G2 phase. Pretty easy to remember, right? It's a sequence. So G0 is a resting phase. All permanent cells stay here, while stable cells stay here until they get a signal.
But wait, Soph, my science bud, what are permanent and stable cells?
Stable cells? Oh, stable cells! Okay, so stable cells are cells that can divide, but only when necessary. So, take for example, liver cells. This is one of the best examples because if you cut, for example, 40% of a liver, it can eventually grow back because liver cells are stable cells. But if you do this with other parts of the body like brain cells, then of course it wouldn't grow back because it's not a stable cell. Actually, this brings me to my next point, which are permanent cells. What are permanent cells? So, permanent cells are what it sounds like. It's permanent and it's never able to duplicate. So, permanent cells are there forever unless they die. So, one example of this are brain cells. And this is actually a perfect example because if you lose one brain cell, then it's basically gone forever because one brain cell can't duplicate into another brain cell. And this is one reason why brain cancer is so dangerous because if you lose one brain cell, you can never get that one back again. In the G1 phase, all cell compounds are duplicated except chromosomes. In this phase, it also produces energy reserves so that it can complete the task of replicating chromosomes. In the S or synthesis phase, DNA replication occurs and cell growth continues. In the G2 phase, the cell replenishes the energy that is expended and they synthesize the proteins necessary for the manipulation of chromosomes. So, what happens in the mitotic phase? In the mitotic or M phase, 2 major events take place. This is mitosis and cytokinesis. Mitosis in its simplest form is cell division that results in 2 daughter cells that are completely identical with the same type and amount of chromosomes. It is also the division of the nucleus, while cytokinesis is the division of cytoplasm. The mitotic phase or M phase has 4 major phases. This is prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. It also includes cytokinesis and prometaphase, which is in between prophase and metaphase. In prophase, chromatin, which is tightly packed DNA and protein, further condense into chromosomes. Chromosomes are 2 sister chromatids held together at a centromere. So this is what it looks like. This is one sister chromatid and this is another sister chromatid, and this is attached by a centromere. In prometaphase, the nuclear membrane begins to disintegrate. So as you can see, there's no more circle over here, which represented the nuclear membrane. This allows chromosomes to be moved by these spindle fibers. And this phase is also necessary for separating the nuclear material into 2. Moving on from prometaphase, we have metaphase. During metaphase, some spindle fibers attach to the centromeres of the chromosomes. They line them up at the middle of the cell, and this is also known as the equator. During anaphase, the centromeres that once held two sister chromatids together separate and become two separate chromosomes. Now these begin moving towards opposite poles as the spindle fibers shorten. Next up is telophase and cytokinesis. Telophase and cytokinesis happen separately but at the same time. During telophase, a new nuclear envelope begins to reassemble along with a nucleolus inside the nucleus. Spindle fibers also begin to break and disappear, so as you can see, there's no more spindle fibers. Next, the chromosomes aren't chromosomes anymore because they have uncoiled into chromatin. So as you can see, the cell is basically back to its original position. And in cytokinesis, it is officially turned into two identical daughter cells. But in plant cells, a cell plate begins to form and it eventually turns into a cell wall. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, but to sum up all of our points, we have a recap. So, what have we learned today? First, we learned the cell cycle's importance, and this is GRR, which stands for growth, replenish, and reproduce. Next, we learned about the phases of interphase, and this is G0, G1, S phase, and G2 phase. Now, G0 isn't a major part of the interphase, but it's still part. Next, we learned about the mitotic phase and the phases in it. Now, this is the prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. This also includes cytokinesis and prometaphase. So something that helps me remember the phases of mitosis is this handshake. Prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. So again, it's prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase.
Thank you for watching.